Welcome to Straight Talk for Entrepreneurs, where we reveal what it really takes to build a successful business. Whether you are starting with an idea or growing your business, this is the show for you. My guests and I will show you how to build a strong mindset, a powerful body, a profitable business. Hi, I'm Brandon C. White, and this is Build a Business Success Secrets. Jeremy and Jenna, welcome. Thanks for joining us from your RV today. How long have we known each other? Over a year?
Little over a year.
Yeah, we just hit a year.
A little over a year. And when I first met you, you were actually living in a house. You were thinking about how you were going to build a new business, and you decided to, because I follow you on Instagram and we talk, is you ditched everything and bought an RV.
That's right.
Yeah, no cars, no house, no stuff, nothing. We literally live in this RV and everything inside is all we have.
So what was the original, and I apologize because you guys have it's hard to even keep track of where you are. What was the original business that you both set out that even brought you to being a student, right? That's how I met you. What was the original idea?
Yeah. There's been so many ideas. I guess the original may have been an app we talked about developing.
Yeah, so just like a travel app that helps people get to and from and what to do and where to go. Kind of like blog and itinerary writing, but all in one place where you click one state, one city, one country, and it brings you up whatever you want.
It could still be a business, so we don't want to say too much about it.
Yeah, we have to be quiet because it's still...
No, we haven't talked about that in a long time. But that came at the same time that I decided to create a brand and start sharing just images from our travels to try to inspire people to go, quench their adventure, hence our name. So hopefully that kind of answers the question. Yeah.
So it was the app, and then it was a travel guide in an app, but what deterred you or made you change the direction? Was it the cost? I remember I gave you some advice and basically said you shouldn't build the app. I think it's going to cost too much money. I think it's going to be a pain in the butt to upkeep, and do something lower. But what was it that did you just lose interest, or was it the money, or what was it?
Yeah, I guess cost was a huge factor,
Yeah.
But also I still don't really have a great articulation of what we're good at. I feel like that's a huge part of building a business, is just really getting locked in on what exactly you are good at, and we're still figuring that out.
Is it photography? Is it writing? Is it exposure? Is it explaining, informing, educating, showing? What is it? What are we good at? And that is what we're finding out. What's our niche? What are we really good at as a couple, as separately? How can we help everybody?
So here's a question, because I've always seen you both together all the time. But when I read the website, it sounds like, Jeremy, this was your harebrained idea that you came up with, and then you dragged Jenna into it. But the thing about it is that I see Jenna creating all the content all the time, which seems like a good gig. And you ride your bike by, and I see you by, and I see you exercising and stuff. So how, was this just, I mean, Jenna, you're obviously on board now, but how did that work? I think it's important because one of the things you both know is I think too many times in an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur journey, we always talk about the entrepreneur. In this case, I see you both as entrepreneurs, but and everybody talks about the team, right? And then you're like, oh, my team. When we were talking before, oh, I have a video person, I have an EA, I have this and that. But really my team is my wife and family. Because that ultimately is, if you don't have that team on board, it just won't matter what happens, because your personal life will probably go to hell. So how did that develop with both of you?
Well, definitely, you're right. It was Jeremy's idea and Jeremy's, I don't want to say dream or, his thing, but he started really honing in on let's create this Instagram, and let's create guides, and let's create photography and drone and footage and GoPro, and really show what we can do to help others. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. As a hobby, sure. If you want to change your Instagram name from Jeremy Chipps to Jeremy's Journeys and then change it to Quench Your Adventure, sure, let's do it. And then, he really explained to me, this isn't just a brand. This is a lifestyle. This is who we are. We can't just talk the talk and, here, post a photo of 2 years ago and yeah, we travel. No, like we need to be out exploring, trying new foods, being locals, being the hidden gems. And so eventually I was like, this is kind of fun. I could do this lifestyle.
Yeah, there were a good, I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months where I would be sitting in the green chair in the corner of our bedroom, writing an Instagram caption for like an hour, and Jenna's waiting for me to like go on a walk or go to the gym or whatever. And it's like, what are you doing? But eventually she became the one writing those captions. I maybe do a little bit more. Sorry about that. One of our alarms going off in the RV. I guess we need new batteries. But yeah, Jenna really jumped on board and got genuinely excited about creating content and, living this adventure.
So the idea was you were going to have some adventure life, documented it, and somehow make some money at some point.
I don't know if money was in the very beginning. It was showing photos, writing captions, engaging with people. And then we realized as it grew bigger and bigger, we're like, okay, if we're spending so much time in this, we should be either, compensated or recognized or somewhat feeling like we're not just drowning in it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, but I'm going to go back to this. What was, if it wasn't money, was it you just like, you wanted to be popular on Instagram? I know I'm saying that off the cuff. Was it because like, what was it that drove you to want to share the adventures that, what was that why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think for me, there are few things that I'm very opinionated about, but one thing that I can't stand is when people like do the same things that aren't fulfilling them. So when people are, too afraid to take a trip that they really want to, or, they waste away years of their lives sitting on the couch watching TV, whatever. And if that's your lifestyle and you're cool with it, then fair enough. But I really wanted to inspire people to live differently, to go on some kind of adventure, big or small, go to the next town over that you've never really explored before and go eat at a new restaurant, walk a park, something like that. So
I can attest to that. It's very authentic coming from him. Like it is truly like, that's all he wanted. I just want to show people that there's so much more out there and you can do anything if you just step outside your door. It doesn't have to be skydiving or zip lining. It could literally be what he just said, a casual new thing.
For sure. Yeah.
So what do you think drives you to have that visceral reaction to people who just don't follow that? Do you think that's something actually, the psychologist in me would come out here and say potentially that maybe that was something in yourself that you wanted to prove to yourself that you're not going to just stay in North Carolina or you're just not going to stay in Florida, that life is bigger than that. And that was a motivation really in you by expressing it to other people. And it makes you mad because you don't want to do that to yourself.
For sure. Yeah, no, that could be it. I definitely have kind of a wild spirit and have to figure out ways to let it run wild, I guess you could say. So, yeah, that's a pretty good analysis.
And maybe, Jenna, that's what you found attractive.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes, if I'm going to be completely honest, it can be a little worrisome that I've expressed to him in our relationship that sometimes it feels like it's never enough when it comes to travel, adventure, outdoors, nature. Like, it's okay. We went out 3 times today. We did 5 bike rides, 2 rock climbs. It's okay. Is it enough? Can we lay down? Can we watch a movie? So I think we balance each other out very, very well. We both have this adventurous spirit, but we both know how to kind of bring it back to a common ground. So I don't think that is what initially attracted me, to be honest. I just liked who he was as a person and his character, and then he's just really fun. And so that helped. But
so are you and people listening and be like, oh, well, Brandon's a little weird, but are you a Capricorn or Sagittarius?
No, neither of us are.
Oh, wow.
I am a Cancer, July, and Jeremy is a Virgo, September. And we actually took a test, and we're really compatible.
Well, that's really good. I think it's, you both balance each other. I don't know what compatible means. My wife and I are actually exactly the opposite. Uh, but it seems to work out for both of you. It clearly works out. But Jenna, it would be fair to say from my observations of when you initially, well, maybe you could talk about this. Like, when did you, either Jeremy, convince Jenna that you're going to ditch the house, or like, how did this whole idea of, hey, we're going to buy an RV and travel around?
That was actually my idea.
Was it really?
Like, Jeremy might have all this adventurous side when it comes to the outdoors, but I was the one saying, let's get rid of it all. Like, let's be minimalist. He showed me a documentary on Netflix one time, and I can't unsee what I saw. Like, I'm obsessed with downsizing, with living with what you need, not what you want. And I laid down one night before bed. It was in the very beginning stages of the pandemic. As it was ending and things were opening up, I said, we have a van. Let's convert it and let's go travel and write itineraries. He's like, okay, yeah, good idea. Like, wow, you're on board. Good job, wife. And then we got back from that, and I was like, I'm not done. I don't want to be stuck. I'm feeling stuck now. He was finally fine. And I said, would you sell it all? Like, should we just get rid of everything? We have all this random stuff from college. Nothing matches with furniture. We'll just buy it all again. And before we even bought the RV, we gave up our lease. We had no home. Like, we were like, if we don't buy an RV, we have to buy an RV. Like, we don't have a home.
Yeah, there's no better way to set a deadline than to not renew your lease.
So, but I need to ask this because I think that's really interesting, because when I was watching your Instagram stories, Jenna, and you were traveling around in that van, I got to tell you that Jeremy looked super excited, and you looked really sad about not washing your hair, not having a bathroom in the van. And it sounded like you were maybe having second thoughts there, but I'm sure there were some moments. You guys went pretty far in just a van, didn't you, to test this idea out?
Oh my gosh, up to the state of Maine.
I think in total about 40 nights, and the one long consecutive trip was almost 3 weeks. So and we spent some time in that thing. Yeah.
But I will say I did have non-negotiables going into purchasing a home on wheels, and it was exactly what you just said. Bathroom, kitchen, sink, toilet,
well, yeah.
Flushing.
What better way to make RV life look attractive than to live in a tiny van for a month?
Yeah, maybe it was like a psychological trick, because I'm like, hey, this is lavish.
And we got 3 times the square feet. We got a full bathroom.
I can sit up and stand up. I can teach my classes. Like, I can't teach a class in a bed hunched over in a van.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You both actually have full-time jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have 3 part-time, and then Jeremy is full-time.
Yeah.
So how's that? Well, how's that been working out? Because sometimes being on the move is really exciting. But the thing that I've found the hardest, if anything, is just internet access.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been difficult. So I've got a full-time sales job. I'm working virtually. I'm making sales calls. So yeah, I need decent service and decent internet. And most of the time, that's not that hard to find, in the States. But we were definitely in places where, service gets spotty because we love spending time in the mountains, and there's not always cell towers everywhere. So we do have unlimited data and mobile hotspots, but we're learning now that those will run out if you're actually working like 40 hours, using internet. Yeah, I think we have like 15 gigs each on our mobile hotspot that, we'll connect to with our laptops. So we actually just purchased another hotspot device that apparently connects with all the cell towers with different carriers and whatnot. We haven't even started to use it yet, but it is a need now. And being on the move and trying to work is stressful, and I've taken on a second job to potentially transition to this second job, which will be fully remote, permanently, and potentially leaving the other one. So a lot going on.
So what is this, another sales job?
It is, but a much more exciting sales job. Not to talk down about the job I've had for the last 3+ years, because it's great. It's in the pharmaceutical industry, but this new job, I would be selling sponsorship packages to big outdoor brands, which is way closer to what I actually enjoy doing. It's for a company called the Outdoor Journal. So it couldn't be a better fit as far as, the people, the culture, and what they're into.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but it's a small startup. It's commission only. So there's some risk. Committing in the past 3+ years. So we're figuring it out. It's the reason we're back to North Carolina, as we had some responsibilities with that job that, brought us back when we thought we'd potentially be on the road, I'll say, for, through the end of the year. And I'm totally virtual again. It's kind of back and forth, too much to explain. But anyway, it's the reason we're back in North Carolina now.
So Jenna, what are your, you mentioned these 3 jobs. I know one of them is teaching. I didn't know that you had these other 2 jobs.
Yeah.
How's that working remotely, teaching for one? I would think, the internet obviously is a huge issue, right?
Luckily, I pick my own hours and schedule. So I'm like, Jeremy, we need to be here at this time. I have a class. We have to have Wi-Fi, or we have to be in a connected service area where I can use my own LTE or hotspot. There has been trouble with Jeremy being on a work call, I being in a class teaching, and it's raining outside, so no one's going outside, and I have to go to the very front. He has to go to the very back. There are no doors and there are no curtains. This is it. It's one big open space. Luckily, that has only happened somehow once.
Yeah.
One time. But I'm not surprised, because I choose when to take the class or teach it, and I know not to book a class when he has a call. So that's interesting. But yeah, I work with kids all over the country, from Kuwait, from Cincinnati, from New Jersey, from Europe, Iceland, all over the place. It's a really cool platform called OutSchool. And I've been a teacher the last 3.5 years in the classroom, but this was the year I did not go back. So that was really cool. And then I just got a remote job permanently working for a company in New York called Lion Global. It's a marketing agency, and I'm actually running their social media.
Oh, that's it. So you created a digital marketing agency out of the RV.
You could say that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so
cool.
So I basically work for Tom Lyon out in New York, and I do his Instagram, Facebooks, and Twitter, LinkedIn, and content create and social media manage. And then I guess when I said I have 3 jobs, I meant Quench Your Adventure is my 3rd.
So here's a question. How long you been married now?
3.5 years. Yeah.
Good for you. Congratulations on that, because most people in America don't always make it that far. So how has this, in my experience many times, when you get into a closer area, it can change your relationship because you're in very close quarters. So how is that dynamic, I'm going to take it from that laughter, been going?
Reasonably well.
Yeah, in the beginning, I was like, this is so easy. It's so, okay, I almost wrote an Instagram post saying, wow, living in such tight spaces makes you appreciate your partner more, because you see these things they do for you. The dishes, the cleaning, the this, that, the other. And I almost posted that. And then it was the next day we had a big old fight. And I was like, that's a hypocrite. I can't say that. It was too, it's sometimes clustery or claustrophobic, where it's just like, sure, I love you so much, but like, you're always next to me, no matter where.
Well, the quarantine, I guess that was a pro, is there was a nice transition, because we were both home together all the time, for a good few months.
Yeah, I'm sure other couples have experienced this. All families have experienced just a closeness, which can be good and can be stressful.
But I definitely, I think, still leaving room for personal space, still doing your own thing is important. So there's plenty of times where I might be all the way up in the, driver's seat, just on my phone,
with
whatever.
his headphones in, and I'll be in the bed with my headphones in.
And I like to ride my bike and go outside, and sometimes do those things by myself. And, that's nice. We value that.
Yeah, we don't get offended.
Time.
Like, I'm very open with Jeremy, and I said, I need my time. I need my space. I'm leaving, but in a positive, friendly way. We're both open to being like, listen, it's too much right now. I got to take a break.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working on a brand and a company together. It's like, oh my gosh, when do we have us time that has nothing to do with our business? It's just us.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. My wife, during the quarantine, has basically I used to be able to ask questions up to 11 a.m. Now I am back to like 10 or 9:30. So things do change, and whatchamacallit, when you get closer. We managed, I forget, I think we've been together 24 years. But
how many marriage years for you?
well, we've been together. Your internet cut out there for a second, but let's make sure that you're back. Let me know if you can hear me. No, you're back.
Yes.
I hear you.
Your question, we've been together for 24 years, I think. And we've been married for 14, maybe less. I forget.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So I don't know if that qualifies me an expert. It certainly had a lot of experience, but, and we just didn't get married because we didn't have kids. So, for us, and we're very independent, but I think your advice, Jeremy and Jenna, is very good in that, I believe after all these years, the success to any relationship is that a relationship isn't existing to your already existing life. And if your life is going to depend on your partner for everything, then in my experience and observation, that generally doesn't work. It certainly can work in the short term, but it's not going to work in the long term. So I think it sounds like you guys have you have a very good relationship, and not getting offended is probably key. I think Jenna and Jeremy cut me off because they didn't want any relationship advice.
Can you hear us?
Now I got you. Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Hey, the RV doesn't make it easy.
Hey, this is part, I like to keep it real, man. This is,
yes.
If you're going to try to do a podcast with somebody who lives in an RV, you're going to experience things. So, well, I don't know how much you got of that, but I was saying that I think it's really good to be open. And look, the bottom line is humans aren't perfect. So you're going to sometimes take it personally or whatever. But I think having open lines of communication and understanding who each other are and that you need space. My wife and I both that way. Jenna, when you were talking, I think only people who have been married for 3+ years, I'll give you 3. I think 3 years you're starting to, it's like, I look back 3 years, I started to figure out what was really going on. But it's one of those things where you can love someone incredibly, but they're getting on your nerves like nobody you've ever met at the exact same time. Right?
This is so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not perfect.
He just did this to me earlier, Brandon. This is exactly what just went on.
What went on?
Like, he said, can you please just leave the room? You're being too annoying.
I was trying to work.
And I'm just in there singing, bouncing on a yoga ball, like talking to the cats. He's like, can you please leave?
I know. I say the same thing. Jeremy.
I've had there's some overwhelm going on with these different job responsibilities, trying to figure out how to spend my time. So I'd love to spend more time with Jenna, but when I'm trying to work and she's bouncing on a ball next to me, it is admittedly distracting.
Sorry.
So. But I think a key thing here about relationships is just the communication. And I don't think most people have the courage to communicate and say that, right, Jeremy? Like, yeah. It's not easy. It's not like, oh, hey, you're getting on my nerves, I got work to do. I mean, my preference, as much as I love my work, would be to hang out with Yvette and do some fun stuff, as I'm sure with you. But if you want to pay the gas, pay the mortgage, and do all these other things, but I think it's better, and you guys can tell me what you think, I think it's better to communicate it than to be nasty, which is sometimes what happens. And then the other person makes up this story in their head, and now your relationship starts not like thrown out the door, but now you're in this weird place that you have to repair. And the person who said it doesn't understand that this story is basically getting out of control in the other person's head. And now you got this crazy thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think
100%.
it is hard, even though we've known each other for, 6, 7 years now, to confess something, or not confess, but to just express a hard feeling
Yep.
with, knowing the other person might get offended, whatever. So, but if you don't do that, it's exactly what you say. It can
Oh, it'll
snowball
fester.
and get much worse. So
I used to let things fester in the beginning of our marriage and just kind of write that story in my head and be mad at him, and he wouldn't know why. And I had to just finally be like, listen, this is uncomfortable for me to talk about. I'm emotional. This is weird, but I just have to get it off my chest. And at least at that point, now he knows this, and either he can do something about it, we can work on it together. But oh my gosh, open communication lines, being able to say and do anything, knowing that your intentions are not to hurt them, is crucial. We see so many couples struggle right now, friends, families. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the way that they talk to each other is disgusting, like rude, mean. So we don't want that.
Well, I think that's very brave of both of you to admit it and to talk about it on the podcast. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think it's a good lesson. I think one of the things that I have identified, Yvette and I, is that we just name it, right? So if I'm working on something, or one of the things with Yvette and I that normally does happen a lot is, like, I'm not a good person when I'm hungry. I mean,
Me too.
so I'm like, you got to catch yourself, because you're in this hunger and you're annoyed. And I'm like, hey, I'm hungry. And it instantly, that's like, okay, she might not like it, right? Because she wants to talk, or I don't know, do yoga ball, or, go walk a dog, or do something fun. But at least she understands it. And I think for us, that's done it. Or she'll be talking, I'll be like, hey, look, I absolutely have got to get this thing. I got to write this thing. So, I'm not ignoring you. I am ignoring you, but I don't want to, but I've got to do this. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Yep.
But I don't think, what do you think? Did you guys just get tired? Like, what, you learned that on your own? Did you have coaching? Like, how did you think you found that?
I mean, I've always been in and out of counseling, so I think I've learned that just in my own mental health journey. I think I share a lot of that with Jeremy. That's just very honest. And then just seeing other examples of what we don't want. Like, we always talk about what we don't want. So as long as we know we're on the same page with that, then we have to just, push through. I mean, do you have an answer?
Well, I was thinking about, so occasionally I meditate. I would love for this to be habitually I meditate. Anyway, it's a form of being present. That's what you, Brandon, saying, I'm hungry. That's exactly what that is. It's acknowledging the way you're feeling right now, making it known, and it creates understanding for you, and it sounds like for your wife. So if you can learn to just take a quick second to think about how you're feeling and communicate that, both, for your own good, and I guess for your partner in this case, the benefit is huge. It's, for me, I try really hard, and not perfect, but to solve a problem as quickly as possible. And that's a good business tip as well, as you might not even really know what the answer is, but the quicker you can try to solve that problem and move on, the better off you're going to be.
So are you doing let's Jeremy, you're doing the YouTube videos. What are you using to edit those videos?
For a long time, I was just using Video Shop, which is just a free, not very robust app on my phone and on the iPad.
On your phone?
A lot of it. You'd be surprised.
Wow.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised
the first 25 videos on your YouTube channel.
But really trying to get a little more professional. And now that we're trying to shoot more with the camera, getting videos to a phone doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm editing on the computer now using DaVinci Resolve, which there is a paid version, but I'm using a free version. It's probably a little more robust than my laptop likes, because it's always, buzzing, and like, it's, there's been a handful of times where it'll like randomly crash, and I learned to turn on autosave after having 2 of those occurrences. So yeah, it's still a struggle. I feel like, the most rookie of rookies, but somehow we're throwing it together, and I just have to try to keep telling myself, like you said, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I want things to be visually nice.
Always
I want the story to be good. I probably spend more time on things than I need to, but
I'm like, let's just do it. Let's put it out there.
Somewhere in between those two perspectives is probably the right place to land. So we'll figure it out.
I think and look, we're, entrepreneurs are all want to be perfectionists at some level, but you can't let great get in the way of good. When good is good enough. Now, Jenna, how about all these Instagram things? Are you doing all this stuff on your phone?
Yes. I only use my phone, and I have no idea what I'm posting tomorrow because I have no idea. Like, I don't use any of the apps that help.
How do you do the videos? Do you not edit? Do you edit the videos in the native? Are you using an iPhone?
Oh, yeah. All the videos on Instagram are truly just shot from the iPhone itself, and it's usually posted the same day. So, like, if I just showed, me walking through the leaves, that happened a couple hours ago. So, like, I told Jeremy how stressful it is for me that our stories on Instagram, which are supposed to be not live, but current time, get backlogged so much that I missed so many great opportunities because I don't want to post something that's not, I'm very strict with myself about, like, not putting something out there that's not actually happening within that, 24 to 48 hour range. So
that's really good advice. I do have a question when you were saying that, Jenna, because one of the things as I watch you, and I know how this feels. I had a social networking site where I felt like I had to post all the time. But do you think that it's taking away from your talking about Jeremy, going back to meditating and being in the moment? Do you feel like you have to document this because you have this brand, and does it take away from the experience that you're having, or do you set time aside and be like, okay, we got to record, or do you even think about that? Like,
oh, that's a great question. And we just talked about that recently, that we wanted to actually put out there and say, hey guys, like, please, if you're ever photographing or videoing anything, look with your eyes first. Do not look at what you're looking at through the screen. For example, this moose encounter we had in the Grand Tetons National Park, we finally saw moose. Me and Jeremy didn't whip out our phones right away, even though I wanted to so bad because I had been talking about wanting to see moose for so long. No, we literally were just like watching, looking, breathing in the air, looking at the sun setting, looking at the moose baby go up to its mom, looking at each other, excited. So I think that is huge. Do not get wrapped up in the experience, documenting it, experiencing yourself, and then take your phone out and explain what's happening in the story. So that was a huge piece that I needed to fulfill what I was doing. What's the point of doing what I'm doing for everybody else if I'm not enjoying it?
Part of me misses the days where SD cards would fill up after 200 photos and your iPhone storage couldn't handle it. And then you're just forced to enjoy the moment or go delete a bunch of stuff to take the photo you were
Sometimes we'll do no phone zones. I think that's important for couples, relationships, families, whatever. We'll go out, grab something to eat. We'll go on a bike ride. Don't bring our phones. Let's not do anything. If we saw something cool, too bad, so sad. We saw it with our eyes. We couldn't document it.
Yeah, that's I call it the snow leopard. If you've ever watched The Secret Life of Walter Mitty movie.
It's on my list.
Well, in that, I won't ruin the ending, but in that scene, there's a photographer and a snow leopard, which I'm a big fan of. Very, very hard to see. They're elusive. They don't come out a lot. And this guy apparently is waiting to see the snow leopard, and he'd been waiting to take the picture. And he puts the camera down, and there's somebody there, and he's like, why are you putting the camera down? Like, you literally came 3/4 of the way around the world to see the snow leopard. You've been sitting up here freezing your ass off, and now you see the snow leopard and you're not going to take the photo. And he said, sometimes you just want to experience that moment. And I always I tell my wife, I was like, hey, snow leopard. And that's like the key word for us. And then
I like that.
So I was just curious because I feel like I'm there every moment with you both in like doing this. And when I did see you in Wyoming, which I've spent a lot of time in Jackson Hole, and there's just incredible wildlife there that if you do not put your phone down, you will miss because animals blend in with nature. And I say maybe that was the first moose that you saw, but maybe you were with a moose somewhere else and didn't see it because you had your phone or your camera or something else up. And I think there's this balance. I just find it interesting, especially with these influencers out there. Like, what part of their life is real? Like, when are they going to wake up 3 years from now and be like, wow, well, what did I do? Like, and there's this feeling that you have to document it. It doesn't sound like you've kept that balance, but it's been hard.
Well, no, now you're making me think about it even more. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, am I exposing too much of our lives? Like, let me live my life.
Well, I think you have to balance, right? Because if you're going to build a brand around that, I will be honest, I struggled with that in the last years when I ran that social media. I ran the largest social networking site for sport fishermen. And I will tell you that it completely ruined fishing for me. I felt like I needed to fish, and that's saying a lot. And candidly, I think I sold that company 8.5 years ago, and I have not been fishing once. Now, this is a guy who goes fishing, used to fish 200 plus days a year. And I'll caveat that I have a nephew who's an awesome guy, and I will go fishing with him and my brother in a minute, but I don't count that as like my fishing.
For yourself.
Yeah, I'm not fishing. I'm fishing because I'm spending time with my brother and my nephew, and we have a good time. But I have not fished in 8.5 years. And there's fishing out front of my house here in Half Moon Bay. But my point in saying that story, and you say, and maybe there's some sadness to that. But I do believe that it burned me out because I felt like I had to fish. And when I fished, I felt like I had to document it. And candidly, if that was the business, which it was, you have to do that, right? And I didn't separate it mainly because I didn't have a ton of people working with me or anything. But I will tell you that it can do that. And I'm not saying that I have a good answer on how to balance it. It's really, really hard, but you don't want to get burned out.
Yeah, that's just a great conundrum of life, I guess. I don't know. I'd love to hear if you have any other advice or thoughts about just, we tell people to follow your passions and your dreams, but if those are the way that you're creating your income, it's like, same example. I've gone climbing with rock climbing guides who, start to lose the zest for climbing over time. It's like,
what if we lose the zest to travel and adventure?
I don't think I could, but I say that now. So I don't know.
Wait, yeah, I was your age and a fishing absolute, like there was nothing all I wanted to do was fish. And I did. Wow. I fished 200 plus days a year. And the only reason I didn't fish the other days was I don't even know it wasn't holidays because I fished on holidays. It was the weather or it was something. But I think my advice there, and it's interesting, there's that popular thing out there, follow your passion, do what you're passionate about. I actually am not sure that I believe that. Now, my lens is that I got burned out, right? Mm-hmm. And look, I got burned out, but it was a great outcome. I'm not complaining. Like, I sold a company, I made a bunch of money, I bought a house in Half Moon Bay and have a life that it afforded me, but it did cost something, right? Yeah. It costed that life of fishing, but it opened up I've been biking for 12 years and I absolutely love riding my bike, and I've seen more on my bike than I would probably ever see anywhere. So, I think in life you have to look at why something happened, and, somebody will say, well, that's really sad. And I say, yeah, maybe it's sad for a minute, but it opened up a new life that I would have otherwise not had the opportunity to have. But going back to your question, Jeremy, is I think you should do what you're really good at. And I think that you should like doing it. If you're not going to do anything that you don't like doing. What I would say is that if I were to go back and be able to redo the social networking site for sport fishermen, I would say that instead of getting caught in this, I need to produce content to engage, I would have created more products. Meaning, for you, I would think, like, you've been to Jackson, you've been to Wyoming. Instead of trying to continually document every minute of everything to get that engagement, I might write a guide that allows me to batch my time better, right? I'm going to spend 15 hours writing this guide. I started that with my social networking site on doing online classes. And I did have a podcast, which wasn't called a podcast. It was called Upload Your Audio File to the Internet and Let Someone Play it. But I think I would have created more products and built it around selling those so that I didn't get burned out. Now, look, some people might just be more, I don't know what the word is. Maybe they're more resilient than I did. I did it for 20 years, maybe less. Maybe a little less, but it was 15 years. It's a long time to be at a grind that, you turn into. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good advice. I don't even know if that's advice, Jeremy, or Jenna, for both of you, but it's all I say is be cognizant of it. Cause the moment it change, you don't think it can change, and it can. And once you get there, it's really hard to throttle it back because that business that you've built relies on it, right? Like, what are you going to do? Am I not going to see Jenna at the top of my feed anymore because that's the business you built, which was that engagement,
Yeah.
Or is it better to take all of that content, maybe you decide to do from your 3 hours a day to 1 hour a day, and take that other time and do YouTube videos that when you get a YouTube video, you get all of this traffic, right? And you put all this time into, and then it's a product. And then you can take some time to yourself. I'm not saying that like I said, I'm giving you feedback. I don't have if I had the prescription, I would have,
I think it's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about what you just said. I don't want to double dip. I don't want to show the same video on Instagram that we're going to show on YouTube, because people aren't going to watch it on YouTube, but that's how we're eventually going to be paid.
Well, let me just say this to answer that. That is and I to this day have that. Do not get caught up in that feeling. And here's why. Those are two. So one thing I do, an example, I tell when I go on podcasts, or you've heard me teach, right? I have a library of stories that I use as lessons as it relates to like these bigger lessons that I didn't happen yesterday. So I have a story of whatever it is. And I used to feel what you feel, Jenna, which is, well, I can't say that on Instagram and then say it on YouTube and then say it on my podcast and then write a blog post about it. And I actually did this yesterday, and it was hard. But here's the deal. Those are different audiences. Your Instagram is not necessarily your YouTube. You will have this crossover, but I would suggest to you that the people who are your fans who watch two channels actually don't mind hearing it again.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
And I did this. So yesterday, I don't know if you're on my email list. I think you are, but I sent this. I sent the JP Morgan email, which was a negotiation lesson. Well, guess where that came from? Do you know where that came from? You know me. Do you know where that came from? It came from my blog post, of which you two didn't read. And that was new to you, but but it wasn't new to me.
Okay.
So I think you can repeat these over and over again and not risk that. So that would be my
I like that. And that's true, because I just looked at our YouTube insights and analytics. It is like 85% male. On Instagram, it is like the opposite. It is all these females across the world following our journey. But everybody's on our YouTube is male. I'm like, okay, fine. All right.
And most of the YouTube views are not even from subscribers
yeah.
too. So
they're all organic, natural, random finds.
Yeah.
So now you don't have to kill yourself to create this content, because you can cross-use the content and you don't feel like, and look, I'm raising my hand here. I'm as guilty as anyone. I'm like, I want everything to be unique. But you know who does this? And it really pounds it home. And I don't know if you follow him. As a marketer, I follow him just because I know him through the grapevine, which is Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. And that dude I could tell you all his stories, literally. Like, they're in his book, they're in his ads, they're all the same. But I've never gotten, I mean, I'm a student of it, but I never really gotten tired of it. And if it didn't work, of all people on this earth of online marketers, Russell wouldn't keep doing it. He wouldn't.
Yeah.
He wouldn't do that. And you can see that lesson with not just him. It just comes to mind because those videos come up a lot. But I think we get caught up as what do we call, or are we content makers or whatever we are?
Content creators, I guess.
Yeah, content creator.
And we want it to be unique, but I think you can reuse stuff all the time. I think on Instagram and some of the social networks, they do want. I think the platform dictates what they want. So they want on Instagram, they don't want 3 days ago in Wyoming when it's sunny out, but on YouTube, they don't care because YouTube is looking back. So, I think, well, I think you have to pick your platforms. Like I have a terrible, you both asked me, you're like, hey, is this going to be taped? Like, are you going to do this YouTube? And I've had enough challenges in keeping my podcast consistent, much less trying to do. So I've got, I think, I don't know, 50 podcast episodes that with one video has been released on YouTube. And I want to do a YouTube channel. But what I found was as soon as I start doing the YouTube channel, now my podcast isn't 3 days a week. Now I'm not consistent, and success and time win. Success and time. So you got to be successful somewhere. And if that's on Instagram, be there. If it's on YouTube, be there, and have ultimate success in that channel before you do that. Last week, I don't know if you read my email, but I basically created this pressure because I was like, of all things that I know, and I know Jeremy's going to be like, you're going to bring up this stupid email thing. But if anything I learned in my online experience is that your email list is the most valuable marketing asset you have, period. No two ways about it. And you should email your list, in my opinion, at least twice a week. And not only that, is however many subscribers you have, you ultimately should be making $1 a month per sub if you suck. That's just the marketing dynamic. You could make 10, some people make 30. But if you think about that, you're like, okay, well now if I had 3,000 subs and I make $1 a person, you got to create a product for them. But I suck. I think this morning we had 28,000 people on our Build a Business list, and on specifically to build a business. I have some other lists that I cross promote, but on that list, right. And like, why wouldn't I be emailing them twice a week? And I haven't been doing it. So last week I was like, hey, if you catch me not emailing twice a week, you get a free course from me, which, is $1,000. But what it does is it costs me money every time I do that. So I've created that pressure. But so now talking about priorities is podcast 3 times a week and emails twice a week. And if we can accomplish that, because, and with you, it sounds like you're doing Instagram and YouTube. Are you cross-promoting to Facebook?
We are. The Instagram, almost everything goes to Facebook. And then every time we post a YouTube video, it's going to Facebook as well.
So what was one last question on the social media? What was the magic? And then we'll get to your 3 HPTs that I know you have for people. What was the magic? You guys really have grown your Instagram following, and it seemed to happen something over a period of time. What was that magic?
It was a slow start for sure. And then when we were consistent and when we were doing stories, I did not know how much that mattered to people. Talking with your voice, with your eyes, interacting with them, not just putting a picture of 2 people holding hands in front of a pretty mountain. When they got to know who we are, what we do, what we act like, what we sound like, where we live, where we go, which can be very invasive. But that was like a game changer. People were viewing our stories like crazy, wanting more, wanting to know who we are. So it kind of just was like being super authentic and real, also being super real and upfront about struggles. And like People don't want the picture perfect. I realize that. It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's enough of that out there. So we're trying to be a little bit
Like,
different.
I wish people had put the realness on living in an RV, because it looked beautiful. Perfect windows open to the Grand Tetons with a cup of coffee with steam and a moose. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, y'all, we're sitting at a rest stop dumping our poop right now. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, and another component is there is a lot of strategy that goes into it as well. A lot of learning the platform. I mean, when we started, we'd post a photo, we'd
walk
throw in
away
some
from
quote. Yeah, we wouldn't really pay that much attention to, who was liking and commenting. We weren't really using hashtags.
Yeah,
well.
we'd
So
get 23 likes and no new follows for 3 months. Like, it was very obvious. And then when we realized people want a story, people want to engage, you can't just put a quote. That's great. You could do that every once in a while to inspire, but they don't want that. They want to know what made you take that picture, what you do, where'd you win.
You need the right people to see your stuff. You need to figure out, who it is that's going to follow you, and try to figure out what hashtags they might be following and looking at and using. So there's a lot that goes into it, so much that we wrote a guide about how to grow an Instagram.
Yeah, we wrote an ebook on how to grow your social media engagement, follower ratio, and everything, so that people could be like, oh, okay, like, those are some good tips that I didn't know about.
Yeah, and we've spent money to learn. It's there's plenty to learn. So it didn't happen overnight, and there's definitely been a lot of effort.
Was my birthday when we hit 10,000 after, I think, a year and a half almost.
Yeah,
a year.
Posting a lot.
Every day pretty much. Yeah.
So was it was it just the flywheel effect that once you got to a certain place and you figured out they wanted to hear authenticity, or was it a combination of hashtags and dialing that in? It just all came together, do you think?
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. And I mean, doing the occasional giveaway is very helpful. You
have to do a lot. It's a lot of randomness, but you do have to dedicate and understand why you're doing it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to it. It's not one thing.
Yeah. Like, when someone asks us that question, I want to be like, well, read our guide, because I can't tell you in one sentence what helped.
Well, where do they get the guide?
We haven't put it really out there. Like, why? I don't know.
What? I just threw you like the slowest pitch that I could possibly give you.
Know, right?
I'm uploading it on our website today.
Okay. And that's quenchyyouradventure.com.
Yep. I'm going to do that right now.
There's a perfect glimpse of our unorganized life.
Well, I just look, don't feel like, I think, like you said, the perfect picture with the moose, all of us, even people who have a lot of experience, you struggle with it, man. It's just a lot to keep up with. And just to write that ebook took you probably, it's not like you just sat down and wrote the ebook. There's just so much to it. So if you're listening, Jenna has committed that somewhere on their front page, you will be able to get this guide that you should be asking people's email address for to download that free download. Landing page. So I really appreciate you both coming on, taking time out of your day. It's good to see you. I feel like I see you every day, but I actually really haven't talked to you that much. And I haven't seen you in my office hours, mainly because I think you're putting everything into action and making it happen. And I think that's a good thing. I think you got a balance between learning and actually just doing it. And I'm terrible. Like, I want to take courses and I want to read books. And then I'm like, maybe I should just put down this one book and put everything that this book just taught me into action and spend time doing that. So congratulations on that. Can you give us 3 HPTs for running a side hustle and going mobile?
For sure. Well, a lot of them have kind of been revealed through this great conversation, but I think the first one is authenticity. And we talked a lot about that. I don't know if you had anything else specific to say about it.
People will see through you if you're just trying to get by them and trying to use them or take their money. No, like, you're committing a relationship and showing the realness and being honest and upfront about things, whether that's relationships, your business, your brand, collabs, whatever. Just be honest, because then you'll never get caught in a lie and you'll never feel like you're being a hypocrite.
And with
And that could
yourself
really,
too.
yeah, morally.
Be honest with yourself about, you know,
what's
what you're-
working, what's not.
Yeah, what you're good at. And a second, number 2 is you cannot be everything to everyone. It is so easy
That's
to want
the hardest one.
everyone to follow us and like what we're doing, but you know, you still get hateful comments
And naysayers. Yeah,
you
people
know,
are mean.
still for whatever reason we have these, you know, percentages, demographics, blah blah blah, but the point is don't try to satisfy everybody, because it will not work. Try to get as clear as possible about who likes what you're doing, and
Yes.
keep doing things that
Match
they will like
you.
and that match up with what you're good at.
And then the third one, we had said it was specifically towards like a niche and what you're good at. So I guess that pairs in this of don't try to do all. There's no for your podcast and you really want to send out emails. Well, we want to really work on our YouTube and our Instagram and emails. Don't worry. But like stick to what you're good at and stick to the niche and don't be all over the place. Like we're a travel couple, RV life people. I'm not going to start showing you, you know, all this, I don't know, grass cutting, lawn mowing company stuff. And like, I don't know, dog tips. We don't have a dog. So we need to stick to what we are good at.
I think those are great advice. And how can people find you?
Quench Your Adventure
Yeah.
on everything.
Very easy across the board. YouTube, Instagram,
and our
Facebook,
website.
and our website. All is Quench Your Adventure, which Jeremy came up with.
Yes.
It's
It will
awesome.
never be quenched. You will always get thirsty again
For adventure. Yeah, that was his concept. And our logo had to have water in it because it's all about quenching your desire.
It's
Yeah.
very good. I'm looking at your YouTube channel, Quench Your Adventure, which you can just Google and find out. And then quenchyoradventure.com, you get everything from Jeremy and Jenna across all the platforms. So, hey, thanks guys and thanks for opening up and sharing a lot of stuff. I think this is really helpful for listeners out there and it is authentic. So thanks for doing that.
Thanks,
Well,
Brandon.
Thank you. I mean, this was a great conversation, motivating for us to keep charging,
The
keep
hustle,
working,
the grind, it'll be
and,
worth it.
Yeah, get our strategy more in line, build an email list. I mean, there's plenty of things that we could be doing.
And
but,
Jeremy always says you were one of his favorite guest speakers when we heard you talk. So
For sure.
he's being honest about
I'll send you the check to your mobile mail address for that. So thank you. I appreciate it. Well, good luck. We're going to check in with you sometime next year.
We don't even have an address.
Yeah, you don't have an address, do you? Or you do?
Well,
technically, yes.
it's just a mailbox at a post office, though.
We get it forwarded to us wherever we end up.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Well, that's a good tip too. So
Thanks
a lot, guys, and enjoy your holidays.
Thank
sure.
you. You
Thanks
too.
so much,
Stay
Brandon.
safe and enjoy.